Hi, I'm Dave Dinkle, and this is Deal Talk. What's unusual about this specific Deal Talk is we're going to do a comparison of listing commissions versus investor profits on 6 randomly chosen wholesale deals. No rehabs whatsoever are in these deals. I decided to do this because I've had inquiring minds from listing agents saying, why should I be an investor? I make 3%, I can do tons of deals. Well, let's look at 6. Again, these are the last 6 that I did through transactional funding. So you get an idea these are all deals with no money, no credit, and no risk from the investor that's doing the deal. Property number 1. Now, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because I've done each of these deals in more detail elsewhere in this material. This is the A to B HUD, the top half. Purchase price is $68,000, but with credits and whatnot, the investor needed $66,018.50 to close, but they had no money, so they came to me for transactional funding. In all of these deals, the closings were the same day. Now, this is the B to C HUD. A to B is where it's purchased, the B to C is where it's sold. Sold for $92,000. Net amount of the profit was $21,480.80 after I was refunded my transactional funding. In this case, it includes the funding fee. Property number 2. In this circumstance, 2 properties, specifically raw land, were purchased and combined and sold to one end buyer. They were not done on HUD statements. They were done on closing disclosures, which came into effect in October of 2015. They're called CDs in the industry. Most closing agents, because we close for cash or hard money, use the old HUDs. In this case, the closing agent used the CDs. So this is CD number 1. Remember, there's 2 of them. A to B, I show the top half here. That's the purchase price, $36,000. Now, on the bottom half, it comes out they need $39,737.51 because of debits to close. No money in the deal. I funded that amount. Here's the second HUD. Remember, both these properties are going to be combined and sold as on the next CD that you're going to see. $30,000 purchase price. I'm showing you a purchase price, and I told you a piece of raw land. It's not a piece in either one of these cases. It's multiple pieces, small lots. Here's the bottom half of the CD for number 2. They needed $33,316.17 to close, again, which I funded. This is the B to C CD, top half, which shows the sale price, $121,000. Now here's the bottom half of the B to C CD. There's my funding, my transactional funding, which came back. There's the total amount of the transactional funding. This is the total amount of the transactional funding for the A to B, both legs. There's a net profit, $39,789.72. In property number 3, the A to B closing agent was different than the B to C closing agent. And we're looking at the top half of the HUD. Purchase price $145,000. The seller received 0 on the proceeds of the A to B side, indicates it's a short sale. There's what was needed to close, $141,281.17. Investor had no money to close. This is the B to C, or the so-called money shot of the equation. Sold it for $157,000. Again, these are all same-day transactions. The profit in this particular case shows $9,357.50. That's incorrect, because on the A to B HUD, the investor put up $1,000 earnest money deposit, which needs to be deducted from this net profit that it shows on the HUD. The reason being is his cost basis has been reduced by $1,000. Therefore, his profit is $1,000 smaller. So the net profit on this transaction is $8,357.50. There's the transactional funding. No money in the game. Property number 4. A to B closing agent, different than the B to C closing agent. Same thing as we saw in number 3. A to B HUD paid $25,000 for this property. Why? Why was it cheap? It wasn't cheap, it was burned out. It was a shell. It should have been destroyed. Now, here's the bottom half of the HUD, and that's what he needed to close, because he said to the seller, I'll pay all the closing costs. If you notice over here, there's no closing cost. $29,679.24. Now, the B to C HUD shows he sold it for $50,000. So you're assuming, gosh, $25,000 profit. Well, remember he paid $29,000. That reduces it to $21,000. Let's see what else happened here. Due from the buyer is $81,000. Now, we just said he sold it for $50,000. How in the world could the buyer, the end buyer, owe $81,000? If you look very carefully, it's $31,000 and change from the second page of this HUD statement that's owed by the buyer. How can that be? It's extraordinary. Well, I'm going to show you the net profit on the B2C HUD. Bottom line, it's $18,425.97 less $1,000 earnest money deposit. So in fact, it's $17,425.97. There's my transactional funding, including the earnest money deposit, which sometimes is not put up by the investor. It has it on the contract. Closing agent assumes it's been put up, but it is not. Now, this is page 2, bottom half. There's an assignment fee on here of $30,000. That's why it was $31,000 for the closing cost. So the profit on this deal was $17,400 and change plus the $30,000, $47,000 profit on a $25,000 house. Property number 5. $565,000 purchase price. Now remember, this investor or student has no money. How are they purchasing a $565,000 property? They put up a $13,000 earnest money deposit, which is unusual. They didn't have the money, so they borrowed it. So they still have no money in the deal when I came along and said, I'm funding $279,000.44. That's what was needed to close. Okay, now we're on the B2C HUD. Again, the money shot, $615,000 is the sale price. Bottom half of the HUD, there's my transactional funding, return of my money, including the funding fee. Now here's the profit on the deal. It's $40,525.22 plus $8,000, which you can't see yet. I'll show it to you in a second, less the $13,000 earnest money deposit they put up. So their profit is $35,525.22. Now let's talk about that $8,000. This is what's called a JV fee. This is page 2 of the B2C HUD. There it says JV fee, and it's $8,000. That money went to one of the sellers as a partner. Here's property number 6. $105,000 purchase price, $105,867.77 needed to close. B2C HUD sale price is $158,000. Net profit $52,032.33. There's my transaction, including a earnest money deposit of $100, which the investor had on the contract but never did put up. I had to actually wire it in separately because the closing agent wanted to see it, 2 line items on their bank statement. Very silly. It doesn't matter. We got to get these things closed. So let's first look at the gross purchase price on the 6 deals. Here they are. These are the sales or purchase price on each one. This happens to be the net number that I funded, but here's what's important. The total sales price was approximately $966,000, and the total commissions paid out at 3% were $28,985.39. In some cases, these purchase prices were larger than the original offering price. Sometimes they were smaller. It doesn't matter. What's important here is you have almost $1 million in properties exchanged, and the average commission payout at 3% is less than $30,000. But let's go back and look at what the investor did on these same transactions. Now you can say to me, I would have gotten 5 or 6% on those. You're not correct. Some of these we didn't pay a commission on at all. But let's assume this was $1 million and you got a total of 5%. That would be $50,000. Let's see what happened to the investors involved in these deals. That's the total, remember now, at 3%, because the average agent gets about 3% on his deals. Here's the net profits on the 6 deals. Deal number and net profit. Number 1, $21,480.80. Number 2, $39,789.72. $35,525.22. $52,032.33. $8,357.50. $47,425.97. Total is $204,611.54. The average net profit on each deal now, is $34,101.92. Almost $1 million in gross sales netted less than $30,000 at 3% and would have netted $50,000 could you have gotten 5% on the total of all 6 sales. Again, this is $34,000 on each one. Is it better then to be a listing agent or an investor? I'll let you answer that question yourself. Did I systematically pick out large profits on these deals? If you'll remember, one of them was less than $9,000. I just took the last 6 that came in the last 10 days actually. So you decide, is it better to be a listing agent or an investor? Thanks very much for joining me.